Business with a servant's heart. Welcome to the podcast. Inspiration, motivation takes. Listen to the podcast. We're all about to talk about life. Our guests will share their life story. We want you to success in life and business. We're ready and we will start shortly. We're gonna talk about life. We're going to speak on business. You're gonna shine bright. We are going to witness. Business with a servant's heart. With hosts Steve, Ramona, and Ray. Inspiration, education talks. Listen to the podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to Doing Business with a Servant's Heart podcast. I'm your host, Steve Ramona. I am so thrilled to have you join us today. We've dedicated this podcast now over 600 shows to help your life and your work with a purpose. We all know the whys and all that, but the purpose I love to talk about is a servant's heart, doing business or life with a servant's heart. Also, when you do that and you serve people, the impact and difference you make, and on a side note, how good you feel, because I get to do it every day, is unbelievable. So once you keep that in mind, also too, we brought guests in. They're going to motivate you, inspire you, and educate you with that purpose, with tools, with thoughts, with tips, whatever it may be. And here's your call to action today, audience. I want you to think about how you're going to serve yourself and others today and what impact you create today. Today's the key word there. Let's not wait. Let's change people's lives, because ultimately it's going to make a difference in change in your life. I want to thank my great sponsor, Pantheon Alliance, joining a community of high-income entrepreneurs, business leaders who create a world-changing thought leader platform to grow your business and grow yourself. For more information on Pantheon, just reach out to me and I'll get you all that information. With that being said, my podcast is Impact. Do you know what your identity is? I think I know mine, but I'm going to learn more about it today and how that can help you grow and be a better leader. Raise your hand if you want to be a better leader. Of course, you're going to join me with that. With that being said, Dr. Joel Pérez, welcome to the show.
Great. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the time that you are allowing for me to meet with you and share more about what I do and how I can help leaders become the exceptional leaders they desire to become. So thanks a lot for the time, Steve. And so looking forward to this conversation.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Let's jump right in identity. We've talked about it before the show, and I went through some. How important is that, and what the heck is it?
Yeah, so it is important. I mean, I contend that it is important to get in touch with who you are and the identities you hold. And that could be your race, it could be your ethnicity, it could be your gender, your sexual identity, your your socioeconomic status, the geography you come from. It's important to get in tune in regards to who you are, because as you know, with leadership, a lot of it is self-awareness. And once you're clear about who you are and how you're shaped, you're able either to identify where there's gaps or things that you need to address, or at what to leverage that you know you're good at, right? And so in my case, I identify as Mexican American Chicano, son of immigrants, who came to the US in the late 50s, met, fell in love, had 3 kids. And so that influences the way I engage with others and how I view the world. And I bring those identities, or have brought those identities, to my leadership. One, it gives me perspective to make sure people who may not always feel like they have a voice, to help them get the courage to have a voice, depending on the spaces they're in. And so, and also to use my identities to be able to engage in conversation with others that don't always know that I'm a son of immigrants, identify as Mexican American because I'm white passing. I have not dark skin, whereas dark skinned colleagues that I have may not be able to enter into those spaces. So I'm able to leverage those identities to advocate, but also to empower others to lead to their full potential. And so it does take some work to really think about what your identities are. It's not good or bad to have certain identities and not have others. It's identifying those that you have and making them, as you said earlier, you asked me earlier, your superpower, right?
Yeah.
And so really leveraging them in a way, and what you know about yourself to give you a better understanding how to lead so that you can, what I termed earlier, lead exceptionally.
So you're using the past as a tool for, let's use me example, to better understand my identity so I can portray it, put it out there better, know who I am, and other people know who you. That's powerful. Well, let's jump on the leadership side. How's that tied to me being a better leader?
Yeah. So, well, one, and I talk about this in the book, you have to be able to gain other awareness, right? People that you lead, people on your team, in your company, in your organization, because that's going to help you, one, get to know them, but then also understand maybe what their journeys are, what their stories are, how to maximize their full potential, right? And so as a leader, it helps you create the culture of belonging that a lot of organizations are wanting to create, right? To hold on to your talent because you acknowledge people's identities and you are comfortable talking about those things. It's not always, I shouldn't use the word comfortable. It's not always comfortable, particularly when it comes to certain viewpoints or how people have been shaped. But it's important as a leader, also as you gain your sense of yourself, you, as I have, identify the biases that I may hold about certain people or certain groups of people, so that I can check myself, right? And so that I can show up and be that leader that I want to be, because I want my team to be successful. I want the organization to be successful, to meet its, business objectives, its goals, its mission, its vision, and values. And so I'll stop there because there's more I can go, but that's kind of where I feel like it helps me be the leader that I know I want to be, that exceptional leader that I desire to be.
Dr. Joel, what I love about this, it's like service and leadership. They cross in your business and your life. So if you're a better leader in business, a lot of times you're a better leader of your home, your friends,
right,
your church, whatever that may be.
Yeah.
You talked about the book, Dear White Leader, correct? Is that the name of the book? How could I miss it?
That's the heading. Yes.
I tell you, my mind can go many different directions. So get me back on the freeway. What you're writing about?
Yeah. No, I appreciate the question. It comes up quite a bit, and as I've been on guests on other podcasts, and when I facilitate workshops and coach people. Now, if you've ever written a book, you know that if you don't have an audience, you have no audience, right? And so my target audience is white leaders that want to get better at leading diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, or diverse teams, but don't know where to start or are feeling stuck. It is not a boring how-to book. It is not dry. I interweave a lot of my own journey, meaning that I still have biases that show up. I still commit microaggressions. I still may let those things pop up. It's what I do in those moments to help me be the better leader, have that growth mindset. And so, yes, there is a target audience. It is a provocative title. It does cause people like, Joel, I'm kind of uncomfortable with the title. And that's fine. That was the intent. Generally, if you are curious enough, you'll pick up the book virtually because it's available on Amazon, on any independent bookstore. You can pick it up, but you'll pick it up and you'll look into the chapters and you start reading. You go, oh, this is this is really helpful to me. So as white leaders have picked it up, those who are curious, they realize that, oh, Joel, as the author, acknowledges that he still makes mistakes. He's on this journey with me. He's not there to be directive or be like, you have to do this and this is the way to do it. It is like, hey, let me partner with you. So it's got a lot of my own story and some of my previous client stories to help build connection with the reader. And it's written in a way where it's not a dense book. It's not a research book, even though I have an academic background. It is written for the marketplace and in a way where you could, one, jump around from chapter to chapter. Every chapter ends with a set of exercises for you to be reflective, and you can read it on an airplane if you're traveling 2 or 3 hours. It is not a dense read. So, but that's why the title. And so I wanted it to be provocative so people are attracted to it in that way, and hopefully we'll pick it up and go, oh, okay, this makes sense in that opening chapter.
And a good author does a call to action. Not many do. Hey, you can read this on a plane. I love it. because that's giving people right away. The image came to my head. Dr. Joel, I could see doing that. So here's a question. I know that all the chapters are good, the topics, but pick your favorite chapter or topic that you've written in the book, and what's the benefit from that?
Yeah, well, it's the first thing that comes with developing this posture of cultural humility. It's that self-awareness, self-critique piece. I believe it's chapter 3. And it's important because like anything with leadership, right? It's why we do personal assessments or leadership assessments. It's why we bring people in to diagnose our organization, to kind of figure out where the problems are. It starts with you. And I make that very clear that it starts with the leader. You can't get off the hook by just hiring someone or starting a program if you want to change your organization. It has to start with you. But like you said earlier, it doesn't end with you. It starts with you, it moves into the organization, and then your community, right? And your community, like you said, could be your family, could be your faith community, could be the volunteer organization, could be the little league team you manage. You're going to start showing up with this posture to help navigate that complexity, or even sometimes engage in dialogue, which might be uncomfortable. But to your question, it is that chapter around self-awareness and self-critique, because I unpack what that can mean for a leader to help them lead exceptionally. And we all want to lead exceptionally. In the book, I tell a story. I was talking with a coaching friend of mine. Who's become a really good friend. And I was telling him I'm writing this book about, I want people to be effective. And he said, Joel, if effective is your bar, it's not a very high bar. We need to be, and that's the starting point. Effectiveness is the starting point. You need to call people to be exceptional leaders, because that's what we need. And given the current state of our society, we need people who want to be exceptional leaders. That's to say that everyone's going to be an exceptional leader. We need effective leaders. But if you want to leave a lasting impression, mobilize people, inspire people with a vision, you need to move towards exceptional leadership.
Legacy. You just described legacy perfectly. That
Right.
is so well written. And I love that you're like my brother. What did I start the show with? Serve yourself first. That's where self-awareness piece comes in. And you can tie that together. Be self-aware, how you can serve yourself and others. Thank you. You tied me in so well. So let me ask you, I know academia becomes good coach, but how do you go from a doctor? I mean, you went through a lot of academia to be a doctor, and congratulations, because I think it's just so powerful. You actually were a PhD, but now you're a coach. I know you coach as a PhD, but how did you become a business coach?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I didn't discover, well, I'll try to make this story short, so because then we got limited time. But it happened not by choice. And so, although I knew I wanted to coach at some point in my career, maybe when I retired as a side gig, right? But as things happen, it was right before the pandemic, and things at work happened. We got a new leader, and they and I were not on the same page. We decided it was better to part ways. And like every new leader, they want to bring in their own people, and that's okay, right? That is very, very normal, very acceptable. What happened in that process for me was that we didn't want to move, our kids didn't want to move, so we stayed where we were, and it created what I call professional sabbatical. I spent time talking with mentors, talking with coaches, and I had just gotten certified to become a professional coach, and I started coaching. And as I started coaching, snowball, right? The snowball effect. People started connecting with me, and I'm like, I think I can do this. And I pivoted, and as I said, I put my shingle out there, and things started picking up. And so that led me to decide I want to launch Apoyo Coaching and Consulting. Apoyo stands for support for in Spanish. And my tagline is I listen, bring clarity, provide support. And so that's what led me to coaching, and particularly business coaching, is I help other coaches now improve their coaching skills and ability, particularly when it comes to coaching others that they may not share the same identities with, right? Or cross-culturally. And that can be challenging. Our businesses have changed demographically. And sometimes coaches are like, I don't know if I can. And they're bringing up something in this coaching environment that I don't feel comfortable talking about. So then I come in and help that coach, like, no, you need to acknowledge that is who they are. and you can help them, but you need to get better, and it starts with you first. And I can help you figure out ways to build your, generate more clients and really think about how this ability to coach cross-culturally can help you build the business that you want to build.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Audience, you're probably writing a bunch of notes because my pad's getting full. So I got it. No, I'm not going to shut him up because he's on a roll. IDI. What's the significance of that? I believe that's a certification you have. I'm not very familiar with it. Share that with us.
Yeah. The IDI it stands for Intercultural Development Inventory. It is an instrument to help people get a baseline of how they bridge across cultural differences. And culture is defined broadly. So it's not just race and ethnicity. It could be gender, it could be socioeconomic status, it could be geography, it could be where you're at on the organizational chart, right? And so it gives you, the leader, a baseline of where you're at. Now, I always state when I'm doing workshops or working with people, it is not a perfect instrument. But I don't believe any instrument is perfect.
Yeah.
I think they all have flaws, but that doesn't mean you can't learn something about yourself in that process. So whether it's the IDI, the Gallup Strengths Finder, the Enneagram, whatever it might be, it is a tool for self-awareness. And then it's you, the leader, to decide, I want to get better at bridging across cultural differences and exploring those differences when they're happening, instead of, I don't want to talk about it. And that's, I think, gotten us in the problem that we're in with our polarization that's happening, is people just don't want to talk because they're afraid of confrontation, they're afraid of conflict. And so the IDI is a tool to help people get that self-awareness, that baseline, and then decide, okay, how do I grow if I want to grow in this area?
Every person on social media needs IDI. Because what you're talking about in one aspect of social media, it's so pervasive, and I don't go on there much, but the stuff I see is you're saying that online publicly, but we're not here to talk about social media because that's a whole different animal. Servant leader. When you hear those two words, what's your definition?
Be curious, not judgmental. Here's what I mean.
Well, I'm going to stop you for a minute because that was my next question. Can you talk about that? Because I'm loving that.
So this is a quote from Ted Lasso. I'm a huge Ted Lasso fan. And the idea here is, can we be curious in moments to help us gain a better understanding, instead of putting people in a box, in a container, judging people? And this is where I think, again, we've gotten ourselves in a problem. We don't train ourselves to be curious. We train ourselves to go to our assumptions and our biases right away, right? So for me, although I'm white presenting, if you hear me talk, like today, people are like, Joel, I think, is a flaming liberal, right? That's a box I'm going to put him in, right? Because he's talking about this diversity stuff, right? And the reality is, you don't know me, right? I mean, you don't know my values, my family life, my upbringing. But if you are able to get curious, you're going to learn more about me. And I believe it displays a posture of servanthood, because you want to get to know me. You want to help me be better and help yourself get better. And that requires curiosity. So in the book, I talk about, there are 3 things that are going to help you develop a posture of cultural humility: having a growth mindset, developing deep curiosity, and learning how to listen. And what I mean by listen is centering yourself to really hear that other person share what they need to share without going straight to your talking points, right? And so those 3 things are, I believe, instrumental in helping leaders develop a posture of cultural humility, which I contend is a characteristic of exceptional leadership.
Dr. Joel, you're speaking my language. I talk about listening, ABL, always be listening. Think that acronym, always be listening. It's just if you want to be a good listener, start a podcast. I'm proving it today.
That's a very, very good point.
I can't ask questions if I don't know about you. And what I love about be curious, not judgmental, it's uncomfortable. When I'm curious, it's uncomfortable. which is great. People be uncomfortable. Sorry, I'm getting a little, I love what you're talking about because we're not uncomfortable enough, right?
Right. And I say too, like I talk about in the book, I say, when I talk in groups or do speaking engagements, I talk about creating a safe space, but a safe space does not mean comfortable. Okay. There's going to be a lot of discomfort, right? Whether it's getting clear about who you are as a leader, right? So, as leaders, sometimes people tell us, hey, you screwed up, like you weren't listening to me, or you made a bad choice, right? Um, and that's going to happen. We're all going to make mistakes, but it's what we do with those mistakes that help us be that leader we want to be. But that self-awareness piece is hard, right? I don't like the fact that I have to wear a hearing aid. But when my kids started pointing out to me, like, Dad, you can't hear us very well. Like, it's time, right? I didn't like the fact that I lost a lot of my hair as I've gotten older, right? It's the reality. It's looking at myself in the mirror and going, I got work to do. And whether it's diversity, equity and inclusion work, belonging work, managing well, managing up, supervising, it starts with you. So I have a course on LinkedIn Learning that's called Strategies for Self-Awareness. And I break down how people can develop strategies on how to become more self-aware. Because I think that's key to any work that we do with leadership and to help us become the servant leaders we want to become.
Any good leadership God, you're so awesome. Every good leadership starts with you. I can't be a leader until I'm a good leader. Yeah, it's so awesome. Yeah. And the image that came, we're coming to the end here, but the image that came to me when you said safe space, is I jump in the water to watch sharks. Now I can jump in without a cage and be really close. I'm uncomfortable. That's not safe. But when I'm in a cage, because I heard a guy talk about this, I go in a cage because I'm uncomfortable, but I'm safe. I mean, of course they could break through, but most of the time they don't.
Right. Yeah.
That's exactly the image you're saying. Being safe, but you're still a little bit uncomfortable with that shark coming at you.
Yeah, you have to be able to embrace, when it comes to curiosity or anything, you have to be able to embrace the uncertainty. And the picture that comes to mind, or what's been coming to mind lately, is the idea of being in quicksand, right?
Okay.
And what I mean by that is, in quicksand, if you start moving really fast, you go deeper, right? You just start sinking. You have to be still to listen, because in quicksand, if you stop moving, you actually can get yourself out of the quicksand because you're not digging the hole deeper for yourself, right? And so we have to approach things in a similar fashion, meaning we have to embrace the instability in order to create the stability we need. Sounds a little counterintuitive, but I think it's super important to think about that as you think about developing your ability to be that exceptional leader you want to be.
Okay, that's a thought we can end the show with right now. That is so powerful. Let's end with a fun question, even though this was a lot of fun, a lot of learning, a lot of motivation. So I've got I want to learn more about you. So we've got a table at a restaurant reserved for you, a table of 4. Obviously, you're going to sit in one of the chairs. So in the 3 empty chairs, who would you invite to sit with you, dead or alive? Why are they coming to the table? And what food would you order?
Oh, I'd be at a Mexican restaurant. So we're Mexican food, mainly because that's my cultural background. That's
your identity, right?
It's my identity. I would invite Barack Obama, Mahatma Gandhi, and Jesus.
Wow.
And we would have a conversation about sitting and being uncomfortable when it comes to faith and our politics, and learning how to be okay with that. So they would come to that table because I'd be able to sit with them in that discomfort, right? Learning to be comfortable with the ambiguity so that we can have a meaningful conversation where we're able to be curious about each other.
Excuse me, manager, I need another 5th chair here because I got to sit in that chair. Holy moly, that's a great chair. Yeah. Dr. Joel, you're a blessing. I love what you're doing. There are a lot of coaches out there, but your unique perspective and niche about identity and being curious, and audience, if you need to find out where to get that shirt, you need to start wearing that around to change the world, because I'm going to get one of those shirts because I love it. How can people that are listening going, I got to talk to Dr. Joel? How can they reach out and touch you?
Yeah, I am on LinkedIn almost like 8 hours a day. So you can reach out on LinkedIn. I respond. You can find two websites. If you want to learn more about the book, Dear White Leader, it's at dearwhiteleader.com. You could actually download the first chapter if you want to kind of like get you familiar with it before you're like, yeah, I'm going to buy this. The other is my website, my business website, which is apoyocoaching.com, APOYO coaching.com. And you can learn more about the services and the coaching that I provide.
And by the way, during this show, he picked up 2 clients on LinkedIn. So he is on there 8 hours. No, I'm kidding. Thank you again, Dr. Joel.
Thank you.
Really
Appreciate your
appreciate
time.
you. And real quick, the audience, the call to action, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Not for what you think. You're listening to Dr. Joel and you go, you know what? My friend doesn't know his identity, or he's not curious enough. What's the best gift you can give in the world? I think a podcast link. And you share this, and that person listens and reaches out to Dr. Joel, maybe becomes a client, maybe he gives them a tip. You notice he gave his chapter away for free. He's a servant, gives stuff away for free, take care of people. And guess what? If it helps them grow whatever amount they grow, you both win. You helped your friend, you serve somebody, and it just really opens the door to learn. And maybe they just listen and they learn so much and they change their life. Me and Joel will never hear it, Dr. Joel, but you know what? The universe does, and we're happy about that. So use these links, make them gifts, comment on the YouTube channel, critique for the podcast, whatever it may be, comment for Dr. Joel, I'll get it to him. And we want to thank all of you. Me and Dr. Joel want to thank all of you for watching or listening to this podcast. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Doing Business with a Servant's Heart. Have a great day, everyone.